I think that what we're trying to say is do your homework, get an idea of what the experience is going to be like. Figure out your own motivations for doing this. And saying that you just want to own it and have it done your way, we are not saying that is wrong. We actually applaud that because we do it ourselves. But you need to know that. Welcome to the Nonprofit Nook, the podcast for nonprofit leaders, board members, and community changemakers who want to build stronger, smarter organizations. I'm your host, Wendy Kidd, a longtime business owner and nonprofit leader, and I'm here to bring you real talk, real tools, and real stories to help you thrive in the nonprofit world. I'll be talking with local nonprofit leaders, community changemakers, and experts in everything from board development to fundraising and digital tools, sharing real stories and simple strategies you can actually use. Because running a nonprofit is hard, but you don't have to do it alone. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Nonprofit Nook. My guest today is Anh Nguyen, founder of Amplified Marketing, nonprofit leader, and passionate advocate for building stronger communities. With more than a decade of experience helping nonprofits and purpose-driven organizations grow their impact, Anh has become known for her practical, strategic approach to nonprofit leadership and community engagement. She also serves as the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter director for Missing Pieces Support Group, where she leads outreach and partnership efforts to support women and families navigating pregnancy loss. Through both her professional work and volunteer leadership, Anh is driven by a desire to connect people, strengthen organizations, and create meaningful change. I am so excited to have Anh back on the show for what I know will be a thought-provoking conversation. Welcome,
Thank
Anh.
you. Thank you. Yay.
I'm glad you joined me because you and I have talked about this particular topic so many times, and it's one of the things that whenever you say this out loud, we always get somebody who turns and looks.
Like we're
And
the bad guys.
like we're the bad guys. And I'm like, we're gonna say it out loud.
But
So
we're not the
you are
bad
here
guys.
because you always tell people do not start a nonprofit. And I know people are like, wait a minute, this is a podcast about nonprofits and starting nonprofits. Yes, and we're not saying don't ever start one, but
That's not
there's
the
a
point.
reason we say this. So Anh, tell us, why do you always say this?
Oh, because it hurts. It actually hurts my heart when I hear somebody go, I'm getting ready to start a nonprofit, or I want to start a nonprofit. And I don't want to be that negative Nelly. I'm not trying to burst anybody's bubble. I'm not trying to really shatter anyone's dream. But often, as you know, in working with nonprofit founders, the passion for that mission, for what they want to do, for what they serve, is very real. But I know, because your
Yep.
business is based on this, that passion by itself doesn't build a sustainable organization.
Yeah.
And then, not to mention, there are so many other nonprofits out there that are doing similar work, right? And I know that founders, it's coming from a genuine place, it's coming from their heart. They want to fix an issue, they want to make an impact. I get all that. We all want to make some kind of impact, and that is so admirable and inspiring. But let's take a step back. It's just like any other business. And this is the thing that you and I talk about a lot too, is that
Yes.
nonprofits should be run like it is a business. The 501c3 is just a tax designation. It is not a business model. So the organization itself should be run like a business. So when a startup founder thinks about a business idea, they do a lot of market research to see if they have a viable product, if there is going to be a target audience or buyer for this product. Well, the nonprofit who you serve is the buyer, and then what you do and your impact and your mission, that's the product. Is it viable? Are there other people already out there doing it? I'll give you an example. I have heard from multiple nonprofit founders who want to create, or prospective founders, I should say, who want to start a nonprofit to serve those who have survived or who have been victimized by domestic abuse.
Yeah.
I can tell you off the top of my head right now, 5 such nonprofits that have been established and well established. And so, what I always encourage those folks to do is let's do some research. Let's see who else is serving the same community that you want to serve, and let's see how we can collaborate.
Yeah. I mean, and really what we're saying is don't start a nonprofit yet. Let's
Yeah.
evaluate this before you do it. I think the thing is that there's a lot of misconceptions people have about starting a nonprofit. What are two or three of those that you think people the misconceptions they have about starting a nonprofit?
And that, well, that it's something new, right? It's new impact,
Mhm.
that only they can do what that mission is, that thing is to serve that particular community, or they believe that other nonprofits who are serving the same community do not want to collaborate or do not want to partner. Those are just a few, I think, myths
Yeah.
or misconceptions.
Well, and I
Uh,
think it's
yeah,
also a misconception that it's not a business, right? I think
right.
that's,
Back
and this
to
is
yeah,
something you and I say all the time is it is a business. It's not like a business with a different tax status. It is a business. And there's a lot of homework that goes into that, and you're making a lot of assumptions with these other misconceptions of, well, nobody else is going to do it the way I would do it. Nobody else is doing it the way it needs to be done. Nobody else is willing to collaborate with me on that. And
or
it,
the only way to really make that impact or a meaningful way is to create a nonprofit. I mean that
right.
I think there's so many other ways that are not being explored. And it's not getting that 501(c)(3) designation.
Well, and the other thing that we haven't talked about yet is nonprofit saturation, right? And what do you think that that looks like in real life? How do we kind of explain to people what we mean by nonprofit saturation?
Well, we talk about donor fatigue, right? The nonprofits like to bandy that term around. Well, guess what? I think donor fatigue is a result also of nonprofit saturation. Not just the donor fatigue from being asked so much, but because there are so many nonprofits out there. I looked up and I did some research with my friend Claude, on how many new organizations were registered in the United States in 1 year, and it was 5 figures. That's
Mhm.
a lot, and
Yeah.
that's every year. Imagine that every year there's this many new nonprofits that are registered. And just like any other business, within the first 1 to 3 years, that's a really impactful time for the organization. Like, you've got to put all the SOPs in place, you've got to put all the things in place to be successful. And so you've got all these small startups essentially who are out there competing for the same dollars, the same donors, and the market is saturated. Again, back to thinking about business, what is a product that is oversaturated?
Yeah.
Coffee?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Every time you turn around, there's a new coffee shop, there's a Starbucks. That market is saturated, and you're going, how can there be enough people buying coffee to keep those businesses successful? In the same way with nonprofits, how can there be enough donors to keep nonprofits successful, especially those who are serving the same community? I get it if you're serving a different community because everybody has their own cause that they're passionate about. But if
Mhm.
you are in the same space and say there's 50 small nonprofits competing for the same dollars, for a domestic violence mission, then guess what? That's 50 nonprofits that are hurting when, wow, if they collaborated and consolidated and merged, just again like businesses, there would maybe be five really strong organizations serving this community in much more impactful ways and not scrounging and scraping and getting by for dollars.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
for
going to step
sure.
off my soapbox now.
No, this whole podcast is your soapbox.
Thank you.
No, but and this is what we're talking about is that there's real homework to be done before you decide to start a nonprofit because starting a nonprofit is starting a business and starting a business is hard. So, to speak to your first point, they need to do some research, right? What nonprofits in your area or even just outside of your area. For example, I live in the McKinney Melissa area. If I wanted to start a nonprofit to help with human trafficking, I would look in the DFW area, not just in McKinney, and see what's out there, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even go talk to these nonprofits and see what they're doing and how they are doing it. I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest first step you can do for homework is get a real sense for what's out there. If it was a small business owner, I'd be saying, look at your competition.
Thank you. Mhm.
Really, what you should be looking at is people not as competition as collaborators, because collaborating is super key here. So, and that's kind of the first thing you should eliminate in doing that homework is finding out who's out there, if they're doing the thing that you think they should be doing, and is this something that you can join up in or even become a chapter of? I think that's
Yeah.
kind of the first step, don't you?
Absolutely. And, we talked about research, but really, yeah, it's homework, right? And
Mhm.
many may say, "Oh, well, I don't even know where to begin." Well, there's this thing called Google, and, we're all using ChatGPT or some version of it, Claude. They
Mhm.
all help with search. In fact, if you guys want a tool to use for research, Perplexity, I use perplexity.ai quite a bit. They do a free version, you're limited on how much you can search, but that tool helps quite a bit with research. Go in there and say, "What, what's a cause? What's a new cause?" I think I've spoken enough about domestic violence, organization.
Right.
What's another cause, right? Like a food bank or something.
Mhm.
Maybe that's not a good example, but I'll just say food bank.
Well,
What
see,
other food banks are in my area? And name exact cities, like you said, McKinney, Melissa, right? Or
uh-huh.
put in your zip codes and find out who's there out there doing work already, well established organizations, and who are serving that target community that you want to serve. Or if you have a mission statement already that you have started thinking about, put it in there as part of your research. What other organizations are have this similar mission to mine, are doing work that is similar to this mission statement that I have developed, etc., and etc. And you'll find this list. And then start doing some additional research on LinkedIn on who the leaders are for these nonprofits, or go back to our friend Google, because most of these organizations will have a website that you can go and research and look at who the leaders are, the executive director, the board members. Reach out to those folks. I know that sometimes that can seem daunting. It can seem frightening for people who are not used to just reaching out and having that conversation cold. You and I don't have that problem.
Right.
Um, but I know for others that may seem like I just can't do that, or they may be afraid to be rejected. Because I've talked to some nonprofit founders who said, "Well, I tried to reach out to other organizations and they didn't respond to me. They didn't return my calls. They didn't return my emails. They made it seem like." They didn't want to have anything to do with me. Okay, fine. Yes, there may be organizations like that, but I'm willing to bet that there is somebody, more than one out there, who is willing to collaborate with you. There is someone that is an executive director or board member who's willing to speak with you. Don't let that initial rejection, if you will, from one organization turn you off from continuing to reach out to others. But here's the other part of it too. There's a little bit of an ego.
Yes. Yes, I was going to bring this up. Mhm.
Well, I brought it up for you. There's a little bit of an ego thing going on. And again, I get that, right? Because you're passionate about what you're doing and you're a founder and you want to make an impact, and no one else can make the impact like you can. I applaud you. I applaud you for thinking that.
Ann and I get it. That's why we're small business owners,
Yes. I
right? Like
applaud
we
you
we
for the
have that
courageousness.
spirit. Mhm.
Yes. But you and I collaborate a lot, right? And there
We
are
do.
some things that we do that overlap with each other, but we collaborate because we're stronger together than we are apart. And that's what I would really like smaller nonprofits to consider, and founders or potential founders to consider before they start a nonprofit.
Yeah. I think that what we're trying to say is do your homework, get an idea of what the experience is gonna be like. Figure out your own motivations for doing this. And saying that you just want to own it and have it done your way, we are not saying that is wrong. We actually applaud that because we do it ourselves. But you need to know that. You need to understand that that's what your motivation is, because that's part of your touchstone in this process. When you're creating it, you need to understand that. And something that I personally have seen, and I'm sure you've probably encountered this too, Ian, is there are founders who create a nonprofit and then they have a really difficult time turning that nonprofit over to other people, because
Mhm.
that's the part of being a nonprofit business that nobody really likes to talk about, is that you as a founder don't typically stay on the board or as the executive director past a certain amount of time. Now,
If you're a founder who is an executive director, you should probably not be the president of the board or vice versa as well. Just saying, right?
correct.
You should
Yes,
not be.
there's a whole lot of board governance issues we're going to have to address
It's
about
that whole
that.
board governance issue, but I just wanted to throw
Yes.
that out there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and a lot of them don't understand that because they've not done the research into that part of it, because let's be clear, again, you're coming at this with a passion. Most people don't research how to start a nonprofit, how to run a business, how to be
Yeah,
profitable as a nonprofit. Most people believe right into that word of nonprofit and you're
yeah,
never supposed to make any money. All these things, they're not looking at board governance when they start the nonprofit. They typically don't even look at board governance. I would hazard a guess of not even in at least until their third year, if not longer,
yeah.
because startups tend to, or nonprofits tend to stay in startup mode for a long time.
For a very long time, much
Yeah,
longer than a regular business because
absolutely.
there often isn't a business plan, right? A solid business plan.
Right?
There's none of the governance like you mentioned. Even and then for nonprofits, there's compliance issues and legal issues and other things that should absolutely be part of the business plan. There should be a business plan to begin with.
Yes. Yes.
Period. The end. There should be a business plan of which includes, okay, how do I set up a board governance, what's the process, marketing plans,
Job
how
descriptions.
yes, yes, all the a business plan. And
Yeah.
so, again, this is a misconception by many nonprofit founders that, oh, I'm starting a nonprofit. I just want to get out there and talk about my nonprofit and talk about the mission, and everybody's just going to fall in love with it and just send me money hand over fist.
Yeah.
That's not the reality. There are many, many, many smaller grassroots nonprofits who literally are just scraping by.
Mhm.
You can barely afford to serve the ones that they are wanting to serve. So is that the situation that you really want to be in? Because you're not really making any impact if all you're doing is just trying to survive.
Yeah. And that's where burnout comes into play. And that's typically when people pull their head up and go, "Oh, wait, what am I doing?"
Mhm.
So we're saying all of these things to help prevent burnout for you and probably
Yes.
everyone around you,
Yes.
because we want to set you guys up for success. So let me pivot us into, when should someone start a nonprofit? When do we think it's a good idea?
If after all of the research and your due diligence, there is truly a gap, then yeah, build. But go into it with your eyes wide open. Go into it with all the things that we have recommended here. Okay, let's look at this. How long will it take me to create develop a business plan that is a solid one, or one that can really be strong at the beginning and continue to evolve as the nonprofit is growing? What other operational realities do I need to make sure that I am aware of, that I have researched, that I have set in motion? Do you want to build your board before you're building your brand or as you're building your brand? What say you on that one, my friend?
To me, I feel like having a great board should be a component before you actually apply for your 501(c)(3), and that is because your board should be able to help you serve that mission, whether they are doing fundraising, whether they are taking on some of the day-to-day operations, whether they are just expanding your network and doing marketing for you. Your board should be a wealth of resources, and this should all be in the financial planning
Yep.
of the business, right? Because you start it as a business, and I don't think most people understand this. You actually have to start a business first, and then you can apply for your 501(c)(3). So you need to do your basics. You need to have your
Yep.
CPA. You need to have your lawyer. You need to have your banker. You
Yep.
need to have your bank account set up. You need to get your domain name. You need to, reserve your name with the state. You need to do all of those things to get your basic business startup. You need to have that business plan, as Anne has told us. You need to have identified income resources, and part of those resources is going to be your board.
Yeah,
So,
and I am
yeah.
gonna agree with you on that one, right? It
Yeah.
should be that ask as you are putting your business plan in place, if as you're building that foundation for your nonprofit, you should be identifying the roles that you need for the board that at least will help you start, and then expand on those roles. There are, I would say, oh gosh, what, a handful of roles that absolutely must be there already before they start:
Yes.
the president, vice
It
president,
it depends upon your
treasurer.
state. I think Texas requires the treasurer, secretary, and president, and they cannot be held by the same person. And that's what you should be doing in your research is you have to look up what your
Yes.
state, because it's a state level mandate. You have to look up what your state's requirements are for that 501(c)(3) status.
And the treasurer should probably not be the spouse of the founder.
Absolutely
Just
should not.
just saying.
Yes. Unfortunately, we see it a lot, but you need to have actual professionals that you can have give you real advice, and they're not just dialing it in. And you're gonna hear also. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go down this tangent.
I
You're
know,
gonna hear
we're
also that you should have a lawyer and a CPA on your board. That should not be the ones that you hired to establish the business, because those professionals you are going to need to pay again to do other things for you, and you cannot pay your board members.
yes, I get yes, you're right, unless it's in your bylaws, but
That's a
that's a
whole nother
whole other
thing. Yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
But yes,
Yeah,
on the whole, most board members for a nonprofit are non-paid. They are volunteer
correct.
leaders for an organization. And so, yeah, it should not be, they should not be paid. But absolutely, I agree. You should have a CPA, an attorney help put together the documentation for you. And
Mhm.
this is a lot of investment at the very beginning. This is a
It
lot of
is.
money. And so I think the misstep that many nonprofit founders are doing is, oh, let's just get the 501(c)(3) designation, then I'll figure out everything else.
Yeah.
Well, okay, what happens then? And I hear so often, I started a nonprofit. How do I get funds? How do I find donors? How do I get big sponsors? Okay, what have you done to develop relationships? What have you done out in the community to network and get the name of your organization out there? So there's all these other things to consider as you are contemplating really
Mhm.
designing and building this nonprofit. It should all be well thought through before you even apply for that 501(c)(3). And for
Absolutely.
those who may have started the work and who say, okay, I have three very good board members who will be the president and the secretary and the treasurer. And then I have this other really good plan, but without the 501(c)(3), I cannot gain any donations yet. Well, there's this thing called fiscal sponsorship, right? So if you know that it's going to take you some time to get your designation, or if you know that you want some extra time to build up your business plan accordingly, build up that foundation accordingly, get more mentorship from an established nonprofit leader, you can seek out another nonprofit that is set up as designated to be a fiscal sponsor. What they do is, in a nutshell, they accept donations on your behalf so that your donors will get the tax exemption they're looking for. And then, but you can then basically legally be able to gain donations through this fiscal sponsor. They do take a percentage of it because it's still a business model. So your research would be finding that fiscal sponsor who aligns with your values, but who also is affordable. And so that's
Yes.
another route to go as you're building this up, because I really encourage founders or potential founders to really think about it and really spend that 6 months to a year even to do all this groundwork and lay the
Yeah.
foundation before they even have that 501(c)(3) designation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know a lot of founders start with the money that's in their own pocket, and I think that's amazing and that's wonderful that you have that option. You still need to start it as a business first.
Yes,
So make sure you're
because
making that
eventually,
investment as part of the business.
yeah, eventually your savings are gonna run out.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about all the things that people need to do to get started as a nonprofit, and I am just going to say, people, as a bonus in my show notes, I'm going to have my list of what you need to do to start your nonprofit. So you can definitely go check out the show notes of this episode. But I also want to ask Ann, what is one question that you think every aspiring nonprofit founder should be able to answer before they file for a 501c3 status?
What is the goal? What is the goal of starting this nonprofit? And not because they wanna serve XYZ community. What's the goal? What
Yeah.
impact do they truly wanna make? Because, if you were to start a business, that would be the first thing I'd ask you. What's your goal with starting this business? Why now?
Yeah. What's happening? What made you do this? And
Mhm.
like, because honestly, the if you don't have that goal, you don't have a touch point or a touchstone. I love touchstones. You've got to have a touchstone to come back to, because otherwise you will get dragged off mission. You will absolutely tangent. You will go down wormholes. You will start offering services that make no sense.
Yes.
And you're going to find that you waste time, you waste effort. It's going to lead to burnout again if you do not have a set goal that this your mission. What is your mission? You're not gonna serve who you think you're setting out to serve. That's just all there is to it.
I absolutely, and there's an organization in the DFW area that you and I are both familiar with, Families to Freedom. Their goal is getting families who have are victims of abuse to a safe place. That is their
Yes.
goal. That is their entire mission. That is in their entire programming. There's none of this, oh, let's have this ancillary program or this ancillary program. They are very, very focused on what that goal is and what that mission is. And I applaud them for it. They are a smaller organization, but I think they're doing great work. And so that would be the question that I would ask a founder. And I would not accept simply oh, to serve XYZ community. That's
Yeah.
great. Almost anybody who serves that community could say that. But why? What exactly do you wanna do for that community?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanna say before we wrap this episode up? Is there anything you feel like we've missed?
No, I think we talked about it quite a bit, and Wendy and I are both open to having a conversation with anyone who is thinking about starting a nonprofit. We are not here to say that you shouldn't, right? We are here to help you really go into it with your eyes wide open and consider all the possibilities, do your due diligence. Because as I mentioned earlier, if there truly is a gap, then yes, go for it.
Do
But
it.
if there isn't a gap, if there is a way for you to collaborate somehow or potentially serve as a board member even to really still make that impact, maybe that's the route to go because it's really hard. And you and I have both seen it
Yeah.
so often. So many nonprofits just really, really hanging in there by a thread. And it's hard to see. It hurts my heart actually to see these people
Absolutely.
just really struggling so much and you want to help but you can only help so much. It
Yeah.
really goes back to, is the foundation there? Is the business plan there? Is the strategy there?
Yeah, we really want you to be able to maximize your impact. And as Ann said, it's just so hard. When you stand on your own 2 feet and then try to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, it's sometimes the shortcut is to help somebody else do it
Yeah, and
versus doing it
yeah.
yourself.
And you can still
Yeah.
make that impact. And there is one other thing I wanted to mention. I met a woman recently, here in the DFW area who had founded a nonprofit, and she had been involved in it for about 20 years, but her goal had always been to set up that organization for success and
Mhm.
for there to be a plan of succession as well. And so now she's no longer involved with the organization. They are thriving, they are successful, and she has gone on in a new career path. But that's always been her goal. It's never been wrapped around her ego, it's been around who and how they serve their community. And I absolutely love that. So there are people out
Absolutely.
there who understand it. It's finding those folks to be your mentors.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of them. If you will raise your hand up, if you will post on social media, there are people who will come and say, "Yeah, I'll be your mentor.
Yeah,
I'll tell you how to do this." So,
absolutely. So
well, thank you for so much for joining me today and talking about this. I hope everyone understands now and they don't give us side eye when they hear us say, "Don't start a nonprofit," because the extra word at the end is yet.
yeah,
We wanna set you up for success. So, thanks everyone
absolutely.
for listening. Thanks, Anne, for joining us, and
Thanks
don't
for
forget to
having
check the
me.
show notes for resources. Anything else I'm missing?
No, that's it. Connect with each of us on our socials on LinkedIn because you and I do a number of events focused on the nonprofit community that
We do.
hopefully are beneficial and helpful. So definitely connect with us.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Nonprofit Nook. We're building better nonprofits together. If you found today's episode helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other nonprofit leaders who need support. Follow the Nonprofit Nook on social media and sign up for our email list for extra tips and updates. You can also visit thenonprofitnook.com to see the show notes and leave a comment telling me what topics you want next. Your feedback shapes the show. See you next time.